Most people do not stay broke because they are lazy. They stay broke because they are obedient. They did what they were told. Study hard. Be responsible. Get a stable job. Work longer hours. Be grateful. Wait your turn. And for a while, that formula seems to work. You get the paycheck. You get the promotion. You get the illusion of progress. But then life starts doing what life always does. The rent goes up. The car breaks down. The groceries cost more than they used to. A medical bill appears out of nowhere, and suddenly the entire system falls apart over one unexpected expense. That is when people start blaming themselves. I should be more disciplined. I need to work harder. I need to make more money. But what if the problem was never just discipline? What if the game itself was designed in a way that keeps most people running hard without ever getting free? Because that is the part almost nobody tells you. The world does not reward effort in a straight line. It rewards ownership. It rewards leverage. It rewards systems. And if you spend your whole life selling hours, you can work heroically and still stay financially fragile. This video is about the real reason most people stay broke forever. Not the obvious reason. Not the motivational poster reason. The real one. And once you see it, you will never look at money the same way again. The first lie sounds innocent. It says, if you work hard, you'll be fine. Now, hard work matters. Of course it does. But hard work by itself is not a wealth strategy. It is an energy strategy. And those are not the same thing. A person can wake up at 5 a.m., commute for an hour, work 10 hours, come home exhausted, repeat that cycle for years, and still have no real financial power. Why? Because they are living inside a linear equation. Time goes in. Money comes out. Stop the time, and the money stops too. That is not freedom. That is dependency with good branding. And the tragedy is that many people never question it because they confuse income with wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what keeps working when you stop. Income can disappear next month. Wealth keeps showing up. One is motion. The other is structure. Most people are taught to chase motion forever. Get the next raise. Pick up more shifts. Take the side hustle. Answer emails at midnight. Squeeze more productivity out of a system that is already squeezing you. But if every solution requires more of your time, then your life becomes a machine that must constantly be fed. And machines wear down. That is why people who look successful on the outside often feel terrified on the inside. Because deep down, they know one thing. If they stop moving, everything stops moving. There are really two financial paths in life. The first path is the worker path. On this path, you trade your labor for money. You get paid for presence. You get paid for compliance. You get paid because you showed up. There is nothing shameful about this path. Almost all of us start there. But there is a ceiling built into it. You only have so many hours. You only have so much energy. You only have so much attention. And eventually, your calendar becomes your prison. The second path is the builder path. Builders focus on creating something that can outlive the hour they spent making it. An asset. A skill with pricing power. A business system. A distribution channel. A piece of code. A library of content. An investment base. A reputation that pulls opportunities toward them. Workers earn when they work. Builders earn when what they built keeps working. That distinction changes everything. Because once money is no longer tied only to your next hour, your life begins to change shape. You stop asking, how can I work more? And you start asking, how can this work without me every second? That is the question broke people rarely get taught, and that is why so many people spend their best years optimizing the wrong variable. They optimize effort, they optimize busyness, they optimize exhaustion, but wealth is usually built by optimizing leverage. Leverage is what allows ordinary effort to produce extraordinary outcomes. It is the difference between carrying a rock in your hands and moving it with a machine. In the modern world, there are 4 forms of leverage that matter most. The first is labor. This is when other people's time expands your output. Every company uses it. Delegation, employees, contractors, teams. This is powerful, but it is also messy. People are complex. Management is hard. And for most beginners, labor is not the easiest leverage to access. The second is capital. Money can work. That is the whole point. Saved money can earn. Invested money can compound. Owned assets can appreciate. Deployed capital can buy time, access, and opportunity. The problem is that capital helps most once you already have some, which is why people with no money often feel locked out of the game. But there are two forms of leverage that changed everything. The third is code. Code works while you sleep. It does not complain. It does not need motivation. It does not ask for overtime. A useful software product can serve thousands, even millions, without the creator being present each time. And the fourth is media, a video, a podcast, a newsletter, a post, a brand, an idea distributed at scale. Media lets one thought reach 10 people or 10 million. It allows your voice to keep working after you are done speaking. That is why the modern economy is so strange. For most of history, scale required permission. Now, in many cases, it does not. You do not need a TV network to publish. You do not need a bank loan to start building an audience. You do not need a gatekeeper to test an idea in public. And yet most people still live as if the only option is to rent out their time. That is not just a financial problem. It is a psychological one. Here is the part nobody likes to hear. Even when opportunity appears, many people sabotage it. Not because they are stupid, because the human brain prefers what is familiar over what is optimal. If you grew up around stress, chaos, and scarcity, your nervous system may treat financial peace as foreign. You can say you want freedom. But if struggle feels normal, you may unconsciously rebuild it. That is why some people earn more and somehow feel poorer. Their income rises, but their identity doesn't. So the lifestyle expands to meet the new money, a better apartment, a newer car, more subscriptions, better restaurants, bigger monthly commitments. None of these purchases feels fatal on its own. That is the trick. Financial collapse rarely arrives like a movie explosion. Usually it arrives like a series of tiny decisions that slowly harden into structure. A payment here, a convenience there, a reward purchase after a stressful week, a little upgrade because I deserve it. And eventually you're no longer managing money. You're feeding a machine you built around your ego. People think being broke is about having no money. Often it is about having no margin, no breathing room, no runway, no ability to absorb bad luck, no power to say no. That is why someone can make 6 figures and still live in fear. Because fear is not always caused by low income. Sometimes it is caused by a fragile life. There are a few mental traps that quietly keep people broke for years. The first is loss aversion. People hate losing more than they enjoy winning. So instead of building upside, they spend their lives protecting the little they already have. They stay in the wrong job too long. They avoid learning new skills because they might be bad at first. They never take the small, intelligent risks that create asymmetric rewards. The second is status spending. Humans are social creatures. We copy the tribe. If the people around you normalize overpriced cars, constant upgrades, and performing success for strangers, that pressure gets inside your decision-making. You stop asking, is this building my future? And start asking, what does this say about me? That question has bankrupted more people than bad math ever did. The third is comparison drift. No matter how far you climb, there will always be someone above you. So if your identity depends on keeping up, you are trapped in a race with no finish line. You can make more and feel worse. Own more and feel smaller. Achieve more and still feel behind. Because comparison does not create satisfaction. It creates permanent psychological debt. And the fourth trap is the most dangerous of all, short-term emotional relief disguised as a financial decision. This is when spending becomes anesthesia. You are tired, so you buy something. You feel insecure, so you upgrade something. You feel bored, so you order something. You feel stuck, so you finance something. The purchase is not solving the problem. It is muting the feeling. And when enough people live like that, consumer culture becomes a giant machine that converts insecurity into revenue. Now here is the frustrating truth about wealth. It usually looks unimpressive in the beginning. That is why so many people fail. Not because the principles do not work, but because the early stages are emotionally boring. Saving a little is boring. Learning a monetizable skill is boring. Investing consistently is boring. Posting content before anyone watches is boring. Building trust before the payoff is boring. And the modern world hates boring. It wants instant proof, instant validation, instant returns, instant transformation. But compounding does not begin with drama. It begins with repetition. A little saved, a little learned, a little built, a little improved, repeated long enough to become unfair. That is why the 1% idea matters. A tiny improvement does not look powerful today, or tomorrow, or next month. But over time, small disciplined behavior becomes identity. Identity becomes standards. Standards become outcomes. And that is when the whole thing starts to separate. One person keeps inflating their lifestyle every time money appears. Another quietly buys back flexibility. One person needs every paycheck. Another is building distance between effort and survival. One person looks rich. Another becomes hard to control. That second person is the one getting free. If you want to stop being broke, the path is not mysterious. It is uncomfortable, but it is not mysterious. Stage 1 is survival. Stop the bleeding. Kill the high-interest debt. Cut the spending that exists only to regulate emotion. Be brutally honest about what is draining you every month. Not glamorous, necessary. Stage 2 is stability. Build a buffer. An emergency fund is not just money. It is psychological power. It is the ability to breathe. It is the ability to say, I don't have to tolerate this. People think freedom starts with millions. Often it starts with a few months of runway. Stage 3 is scalability. Now you stop thinking only like a consumer and start thinking like an asset builder. What can you learn that the market values? What can you create once and benefit from repeatedly? What specific knowledge do you have the patience to develop deeply? This is where many lives split in two. Most people stay in maintenance mode forever. A smaller group starts building things that compound. Stage 4 is sovereignty. This is the real goal. Not flexing. Not showing off. Not looking richer than the people you grew up with. Sovereignty means your life is not easily hijacked by fear. Your bills do not dictate your values. Your employer does not own your emotional weather. Your calendar is not fully rented out to survive. That is wealth in its highest form, not luxury. Choice. Most people stay broke forever because they keep trying to solve a structural problem with motivational energy. They think the answer is more hustle. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes the answer is fewer leaks, better systems, smarter incentives, longer time horizons, less ego, more patience, more ownership, more leverage, and maybe most importantly, a new identity. Because if you still see yourself as someone who is always almost okay, always almost catching up, always almost getting ahead, you will keep rebuilding that reality. At some point, the external plan and the internal story have to match. You have to stop admiring freedom from a distance and start organizing your life around it. That may mean a quieter life than the internet celebrates. It may mean saying no more often. It may mean looking less impressive for a while. It may mean building in private while other people perform in public. Good. That is how real financial change often begins. Quietly, without applause, without proof, without anyone understanding what you are doing. Until one day the pressure is gone. And that is when you realize the goal was never to look rich. The goal was to become unowned. Closing. So if you remember one thing, remember this. Hard work is honorable, but hard work without leverage can become a treadmill. The people who escape are not always the smartest. They are the ones who stop confusing effort with progress. They build margin. They control lifestyle inflation. They think in years, not weekends. They trade status for sovereignty. And little by little, they stop selling every hour of their life just to stay afloat. That is how people stop being broke. Not overnight, not through fantasy, not through luck, but by building a life that no longer collapses every time reality gets expensive. Start with 1%, one better decision, one smaller leak, one useful skill, one step toward ownership. Do that long enough, and eventually the trap breaks. And when it does, you will understand something most people never do. Wealth was never about having more than everyone else. It was about needing less permission to live your own life. If this changed the way you think about money, subscribe, because on this channel, we are not chasing appearances, we are building freedom.